coming-of-age movies are seen by most people as movies that are set in the hometown of a young protagonist, where they will go through a series of events with friends by their side and come out at the end of the film as an entirely newer and better person. When set in a wartime setting, however, things don't go as blissfully as they're supposed to. War does not discriminate who will suffer, and it doesn't care if they're involved in its grueling game or not. A wartime setting will have their children either experience the loss of their parents, the loss of the only place they knew home, or at times even both, which is how it pushes them through their coming-of-age story where they will largely have to become their own leader. In this comparative study, I'm going to explore how the protagonist's coming-of-age stories in the context of World War II contrast with each other and how the destruction of war psychologically affects the protagonist within the films Empire of the Sun, directed by Steven Spielberg, and Grave of the Fireflies, directed by Isao Takahata. Empire of the Sun is about a British boy by the name of Jamie who lives an easy and privileged life in the Shanghai International Settlement, where he gets whatever he wants without repercussions. However, after losing his parents in a crowd fleeing from the Japanese invasion force, he roams around the streets until he meets Basie, his new caretaker. After being sent to an internment camp, Jamie's time there makes him undergo a transformation of his character to a now kinder person, such as making people happy with a trade network.
He's escaped. He can't have, he promised me.
After Jamie was ditched by Basie, who escaped during the confusion of an air raid, the Japanese forced their prisoners to a stadium where Jamie decided to stay at, resulting in him being separated from the group. With the end of the war, Jamie is taken to foster care where he is reunited with his parents. However, this is anticlimactic as he had forgotten what his parents looked like. Empire of the Sun is based on J.G. Ballard's semi-autobiographical novel Empire of the Sun, which takes heavy inspiration from his childhood before and after the Japanese invasion of the Shanghai International Settlement to his time in the Lung Hao Civilian Assembly Center. Grave of the Fireflies is about a pair of siblings, Seita and Setsuko, on a desperate journey to stay alive in the last few months of World War II and beyond it. After losing their house and mother in a firebombing over Kobe, the two decide to live with their aunt, who slowly starts to show resentment as the two aren't able to contribute to the household. This forces Seiya to decide that he and his sister will live in an old bomb shelter instead with their aunt. However, Seiya realizes that living outside of the system is extremely difficult, but still chooses to not go back to his aunt, which ultimately caused the death of Setsuko from malnutrition. The film then ends after a burial with Seiya and Setsuko's spirits looking over the present-day state of Kobe. This film is based upon Akiyuki Nosaka's experience over the firebombing of Kobe within his 1967 short semi-autobiographical story Grave of the Fireflies. The book is written as a personal apology to his former adoptive sister, Kaiko, who died of malnutrition due to the destruction of the firebombing. Both films draw inspiration from stories of autobiographies of once innocent children who experienced the horrors of war, with Ballard being in an internment camp and Osaka experiencing the firebombing of Kobe. Not only that, but they were affected psychologically by it as well, with a quote from Ballard saying how he ran back into the internment camp, and Osaka for writing the autobiographical story as a way to apologize for letting his younger sister die. Both films utilize the composition of a frame to tell the wartime coming-of-age stories for the protagonist and how the destruction of war affects their protagonist psychologically with it. The tight composition of framing is used in both films to display the struggle that the characters are in. However, both films each take their own specific routes in struggles, as Grave of the Fireflies go through the struggles of death, while Empire of the Sun goes through the struggles of harassment. Tight composition of framing is used in Grave of the Fireflies whenever a character has died or is on the verge of death, such as with the siblings' dying mother being tagged to show how she's going to a mass burial, and of the shot of Seiya breathing his last breath in a train station. This pushes the end of the siblings' coming-to-age stories as the camera focuses on their last moments in life, which is a darker route in the ending to show that beauty does not last forever and that it's a fragile thing, while death is the only thing that will last forever. The tire framing of Seiya holding Sasuke's dead body shows the psychological damage that he experiences, as the destruction brought about from war with food production and supplies being low was the reason why Sasuke dies. Because the Seiya feels guilty that he allowed that to happen, and the only thing that could bring him comfort is to hold her close to himself until the right time comes to bury her. Empire of the Sun, on the other hand, uses the tire frame to show Jamie's struggle with harassment, which plays a role in his coming-to-age journey, as he's being shown that the world outside of his bubble is a ruthless place. This is seen when the beggar catches Jamie in a corridor where he is beaten up and is robbed of only his shoes before being stopped by an old woman who hears Jamie's cry for help. This is also seen when Jamie is brought to Basie for the first time and is forcefully sat in a chair by him, in which he gets very close to him to see what kind of stuff that he has on him, which tightens the framing of the camera. This creates the same uncomfortable feeling that Jamie was experiencing, as he was just taken somewhere and being lured again, but he's now being taken care of by Basie.
What's he, some kind of priest?
Frank, the cathedral school. It's a school for taipans. Well, you must know some important people, son. What do they call you?
Mise-en-scène is also prominent in both of the movies, to convey the similarities and differences of the protagonist's coming-of-age stories through the use of different angle shots. Both films are seen utilizing establishing shots whenever the protagonists were being transported to a different location within a vehicle, with the siblings in Grave of the Fireflies going to their aunt's house in a bus to be taken care of, and a truck being used to transport Jamie and the other British prisoners to the Suchow internment camp to perform hard labor in Empire of the Sun. This serves as both a similarity and a difference. It serves as a similarity as the protagonists are traveling to the location where they are going to be promised better conditions, especially with their caretakers. But instead their caretakers turn their backs on the protagonists for their own self-interest. Seita and Sasuke's caretaker, their aunt, only cared for the exclusive goodies that they were able to bring in, but after that, they were treated as if they were second-class citizens. Jamie's caretaker, Basie, used Jamie to get certain honors for his own purposes and promised to take Jamie when the time to escape came around. But instead, he ditched Jamie along with the other Americans to only escape with himself and a few others. This pushes the protagonists to the point in their coming-of-age stories and affecting them psychologically, where they decide to mostly take care of themselves and to not be reliant on adults, as seen with the siblings quickly walking past their uncle and Jamie not following the rest of the group out of the stadium. Now, of course, this acts as a difference as well, as Seiya and Sasuke are going to a location where they won't be physically threatened or hurt, but instead, they get some assistance. On the other hand, in Empire of the Sun, Jamie and the others know that they're still going to a labor camp that will force them to do hard labor in return for some rice and potatoes. To conclude, both of these coming-of-age films set during the Second World War show no mercy on the children through their journeys, and where the absence of happiness is common and the negative psychological effects are high. The use of tire composition of framing for the camera and the specific angles for the mise-en-scène is what helps these coming-of-age stories come alive and gives the audience a new outlook on coming-of-age films.